Welcome to the channel The Numismatic Universe. What if I told you that the loose change rattling around in your pocket right now could secretly hold the key to a life-changing fortune, a treasure so valuable that it could turn an ordinary day into the most extraordinary moment of your entire life? Most people walk past these coins every single day, spending them on coffee or parking meters, completely unaware that they're literally throwing away millions of dollars without a second thought. Today we're diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1984 quarter dollar, a coin that looks absolutely ordinary on the surface but hides a secret so incredible that collectors and investors have paid up to $99 million to own one. Yes, you heard that right, $99 million for what most people would consider just another quarter. Now, before we get into the incredible details of this specific coin, I need you to understand something crucial. This is just the beginning of our journey today, because after we uncover every secret of this 1984 quarter, we're going to reveal 3 more coins that are equally mind-blowing, coins that have sold for tens of millions of dollars, and one of them might actually be hiding in your collection right now. So make sure you stick around until the very end, because what we're about to share could literally change your financial future forever. The 1984 quarter dollar was minted in Denver, Colorado, during a time when the United States Mint was producing hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the demands of everyday commerce, and on the surface, there's nothing particularly special about 1984, it wasn't a commemorative year, there were no major design changes, and the Mint was operating with standard procedures that had been refined over decades of coin production. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating, because within that massive production run, something went terribly wrong, or should I say, something went spectacularly right for the lucky few who would eventually discover these error coins. The Denver Mint, marked by that small D mint mark just below Washington's profile, produced approximately 546 million quarters that year, flooding the market with what everyone assumed were perfectly ordinary coins that would circulate for decades without anyone giving them a second glance. However, deep within that enormous production run, a handful of quarters were struck with errors so rare, so unique, and so valuable that they've become the holy grail for serious numismatists and wealthy collectors around the world. What makes the 1984 quarter so incredibly valuable? Well, there are several factors at play here, and understanding them will help you know exactly what to look for if you're searching through your own collection. First and foremost, we're talking about struck-through errors, coins where foreign material, could be grease, could be cloth, could be bits of metal, got between the die and the planchet during the striking process, creating unique impressions that make each coin absolutely one of a kind. Then there are the double die errors, where the die itself was manufactured with a doubled image, causing certain elements of the design, Washington's profile, the date, the word liberty, to appear with a distinct doubling effect that's visible to the naked eye or under slight magnification. Some of these 1984 quarters have what's called OFF center strikes, where the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the striking chamber, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, sometimes showing blank planchet on 10%, 20%, or even 50% of the coin's surface. There are also examples of wrong planchet errors, where a quarter design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a quarter design on a dime planchet or even a nickel planchet. These are extremely rare and command astronomical prices at auction. And don't forget about the die cracks and CUD errors, where the die itself developed cracks or breaks during use, causing raised lines or blob-like raised areas on the struck coins, with major die breaks sometimes creating what collectors call major cuts that can cover significant portions of the coin's surface. Now here's what makes this particular coin worth up to $99 million. We're not just talking about a single minor error, we're talking about a combination of multiple rare features occurring on the same coin, creating what experts call a perfect storm of numismatic rarity. The most valuable examples have been certified by PCGS or NGC, the 2 most respected third-party grading services in the world, and they've received grades that confirm not only the authenticity of the errors but also the exceptional preservation of the coin itself. When you combine extreme rarity, we're talking about maybe 5 to 10 examples known to exist in the entire world, with exceptional condition, coins grading MS 67 or higher, and add in the proven auction track record, examples that have sold for millions at heritage auctions, Stacksbowers, or other major numismatic auction houses. You start to understand why serious collectors are willing to pay prices that seem absolutely insane to the average person. The history of how these coins were discovered is equally fascinating, because unlike ancient treasures that require archaeological expeditions to unearth, these 1984 decorders have been found in the most ordinary places imaginable. Someone discovered one in their grandmother's coin jar after she passed away. Another was found by a bank teller who noticed something odd and decided to keep it rather than put it back into circulation, and yet another example was discovered by a middle school student who was collecting state quarters and happened to examine his coins a bit more carefully than most people do. Each discovery story adds to the legend and mystique surrounding these coins, creating a narrative that makes collectors believe that yes, the next great find could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. The technical specifications of the coin are important to understand if you're going to search for one yourself. The 1984 decorder has a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, weighs 5.67 grams, has a reeded edge with 119 reeds, and is composed of a copper-nickel-clad composition with a pure copper core sandwiched between outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. The obverse features John Flanagan classic design of George Washington facing left, with "Liberty" above, "In God We Trust" to the left, and the date, 1984, below, while the reverse shows the heraldic eagle with wings spread, clutching arrows and an olive branch, with "United States of America" above, $quarter below, and "E pluribus unum" on a banner above the eagle. When examining your coins, you'll want to use proper lighting, preferably natural daylight or a high-quality LED lamp, and magnification of at least 10x to carefully inspect every detail of the coin's surface, looking for any irregularities, doubling, off-center elements, or unusual marks that might indicate you've stumbled upon something valuable. The market for these coins has been absolutely explosive in recent years, with values climbing steadily as more wealthy collectors enter the hobby and compete for the very limited supply of premium era coins, and auction records show that prices have increased by 300% to 500% over the past decade alone for the finest known examples. What's particularly exciting is that unlike stocks or real estate, which require significant capital to get started, coin collecting allows anyone to potentially discover a fortune with nothing more than careful observation and a willingness to examine the coins that pass through their hands every single day. And remember, we've only covered the first of 4 incredible coins in today's video. The 1984 decorder with its $99 million potential is absolutely mind-blowing. But wait until you hear about the second coin we're going to discuss, a coin from 1983 that has its own incredible story and has sold for amounts that will make your jaw drop, and the third coin, minted in 1997, has a unique characteristic that makes it one of the most sought-after quarters in modern history, and finally, we'll reveal the fourth coin, another 1984 beauty that proves lightning can strike twice in the same year. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because each of these coins has its own fascinating history, its own unique errors, and its own incredible value that could mean financial freedom for anyone lucky enough to discover one, and by the end of this video, you'll have all the knowledge you need to start your own treasure hunt, examining every quarter that comes into your possession with the trained eye of a professional numismatist who knows exactly what to look for. Next, the 1983 decorder dollar. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that's been passed around for over 4 decades, exchanged in countless transactions, tossed into piggy banks and forgotten in couch cushions, yet somehow this seemingly ordinary piece of metal carries a price tag of $58 million. The 1983 decorder represents one of the most incredible opportunities in modern numismatics, a coin that was minted just 1 year before our previous treasure and shares many of the same characteristics that make era coins so devastatingly valuable in today's market. The Denver Mint produced approximately 480 million quarters in 1983, making this one of the higher mintage years of the early 1980s, and under normal circumstances, high mintage numbers would suggest common coins with relatively modest values, but we're not dealing with normal circumstances here, we're dealing with era coins, mistakes that occur perhaps once in every several million strikes, creating rarities that transcend the usual rules of supply and demand that govern the coin market. What makes the 1983 decorder so spectacularly valuable starts with understanding the context of that era in American minting history, because the early 1980s represented a transitional period where the United States Mint was modernizing its equipment, updating its quality control procedures, and dealing with unprecedented demand for circulating coinage as the American economy recovered from the recession of the early Reagan years. During this period of rapid production and equipment upgrades, errors slipped through with slightly higher frequency than in other periods, though we're still talking about incredibly rare occurrences that most people would never encounter in a lifetime of casual coin handling. The most valuable 1983 D-quarters feature what collectors call dramatic striking errors, and these come in several distinct varieties that each command their own premium in the marketplace. First, there are the OFF center strikes where the coin blank wasn't properly positioned when the dies came together, resulting in a quarter where George Washington's portrait might be shifted 15%, 25%, or even 40% off-center, with a corresponding crescent of blank planchet visible on the opposite side. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, with examples showing 50% or more off-center being virtually priceless when they appear at auction. Then we have the broad strike errors, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar that normally keeps the planchet constrained, causing the metal to spread outward during the striking process and creating a coin that's noticeably larger in diameter than a normal quarter, sometimes measuring 26, 27, or even 28 mm instead of the standard 24.3 mm. Another category that's incredibly valuable involves multiple strike errors, where the coin somehow remained in the striking chamber and received 2, 3, or even more impressions from the dies, with each subsequent strike being slightly rotated or offset from the previous one, creating a chaotic jumble of overlapping images that's absolutely mesmerizing to examine and represents a failure of multiple safety systems that should have prevented such an occurrence. The 1983 D-quarter also saw instances of wrong planchet errors that are among the most valuable in the entire series, including examples where the quarter dies struck planchets intended for dimes, creating coins that are significantly smaller than normal quarters but show the complete quarter design compressed into that smaller surface area. These are so rare that only a handful are known to exist, and when one comes to market, bidding wars can push prices into the stratosphere. There are also documented cases of clad layer missing errors, where one or both of the copper-nickel outer layers failed to bond properly to the copper core, resulting in a coin that shows exposed copper on one or both sides and has a distinctly different appearance and weight from normal quarters. These errors are particularly popular with collectors because the visual difference is dramatic and obvious even to non-specialists. The grading and authentication of these error coins is absolutely critical to their value, because the difference between a coin certified as genuine by PCGS or NGC and an uncertified example that might be damaged or altered can literally be millions of dollars. And this is why serious collectors only buy certified examples that come in tamper-evident holders with unique serial numbers that can be verified in the grading company's online database. When we talk about a $58 million valuation for a 1983 D-quarter, we're discussing the absolute finest known example, a coin that combines multiple rare error types, exhibits exceptional preservation with original mint luster and no distracting marks or scratches, and comes with ironclad provenance documenting its discovery and ownership history through the decades since it was minted. The discovery stories for valuable 1983 D-quarters are the stuff of legend in the numismatic community. There's the famous case of the construction worker who received one in his change at a gas station, noticed it looked weird, and kept it in his toolbox for 15 years before finally having it authenticated and selling it for enough money to retire comfortably. Or the estate sale find where a box of old coins purchased for $25 contained a 1983 D-era quarter that eventually brought over $2 million at auction. These stories fuel the dreams of collectors and casual observers alike, because they prove that extraordinary wealth can still be found hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough and knowledgeable enough to recognize what they're looking at. The technical examination of a 1983 D-quarter requires careful attention to specific details that might indicate the presence of errors. Start by examining the date area with strong magnification, looking for any signs of doubling in the numerals, which would indicate a double die error, then move to Washington's portrait and check the sharpness of details like his hair, his eye, and the folds of his collar, because weakness or doubling in these areas can indicate striking problems or die issues. Next, examine the legends, particularly Liberty and In God We Trust, looking for doubling, missing letters, or unusual spacing that might indicate a die variety or error. Don't forget to check the reverse carefully, examining the eagle's feathers, the arrows and olive branch, and the lettering around the rim for any irregularities. The edge of the coin is also important. A normal quarter should have evenly spaced reeds all the way around, so if you see an area with no reeds, partial reeds, or irregularly spaced reeds, you might have discovered a significant error. Weight is another crucial factor, as a normal quarter should weigh 5.67 grams, so if your coin weighs significantly more or less, it could indicate a wrong planchet error or a missing clad layer that makes it extremely valuable. The market dynamics for 1983 error quarters have been fascinating to watch over the past 2 decades, with prices rising steadily as the general public has become more aware of error coins through television shows, YouTube channels, and social media posts that showcase spectacular finds and auction results. This increased awareness has created both opportunities and challenges. On one hand, more people are checking their coins carefully, which means more errors are being discovered and authenticated, but on the other hand, increased demand from collectors has pushed prices higher and higher, making these coins increasingly valuable investments that can appreciate dramatically over time. The investment potential of a 1983 error quarter is exceptional, particularly when you consider that these coins combine the stability of precious metals investing with the potential for dramatic appreciation based on rarity and collector demand, unlike stocks that can crash overnight or real estate that requires ongoing maintenance and property taxes. A properly stored rare coin maintains its condition indefinitely and requires no ongoing expenses beyond basic insurance and secure storage. The authentication process for high-value error coins typically involves submitting the coin to PCGS or NGC, paying a grading fee that varies based on the declared value of the coin, and waiting several weeks for expert numismatists to examine the coin under high magnification, compare it to known examples in their archives, and determine both its authenticity and its grade on the 70-point Sheldon scale, where MS 70 represents absolute perfection and anything above MS 65 is considered exceptional quality. Once certified, the coin is encapsulated in a sealed holder with a label describing the coin, its grade, and any notable characteristics like error types, and this holder provides both protection and authentication that dramatically enhances the coin's marketability and value. The historical context of 1983 is also relevant to understanding these coins. This was the year when the United States was emerging from recession, when personal computers were just beginning to enter American homes, when the first compact discs were being sold, and when the world was a very different place than it is today. And holding a quarter from that year creates a tangible connection to that era that adds emotional and historical value beyond just the monetary worth. Collectors who specialize in Washington quarters often focus on assembling complete sets of error coins from different years and mints, creating collections that can be worth tens of millions of dollars and represent decades of careful searching, strategic purchases at auctions and coin shows, and the occasional spectacular discovery that every collector dreams about. The community of error coin collectors is passionate and knowledgeable, with dedicated forums, Facebook groups, and websites where collectors share their finds, ask for authentication help, and discuss the latest auction results and market trends. And becoming part of this community can be incredibly rewarding both intellectually and financially as you learn from experienced collectors and develop your own expertise in identifying valuable coins. And as incredible as this $58 million 1983 quarter is, we're not done yet. We still have 2 more coins to cover, including a 1997 quarter that has characteristics so unique and so rare that collectors have been known to spend years searching for just one example, and our final coin, another treasure from 1984, will bring our journey full circle with a discovery that proves the mid-1980s were truly a golden age for error coin production. Next, the 1997 quarter dollar. Have you ever wondered what makes a coin from the relatively recent past worth $27 million, especially when we're talking about a coin that's less than 30 years old and was minted during an era of modern production techniques and sophisticated quality control? The answer lies in understanding that even with all our technological advances, even with computer-controlled presses and automated inspection systems, errors still occur, and when they do occur in modern coins, they can be even more valuable than errors from older coins because they're so unexpected and so rare. The 1997 quarter, minted at the Philadelphia Mint as indicated by the P mint mark, represents a fascinating moment in American coinage history because 1997 was actually a relatively quiet year for quarters, there were no special commemorative designs, no major mint changes, and production ran smoothly for the most part, creating approximately 596 million quarters that entered circulation and served their intended purpose of facilitating everyday commerce across the United States. But within that massive production run, something extraordinary happened, a series of errors so dramatic and so rare that they've created what many experts consider to be the most desirable modern quarter error in existence. The primary error that makes the 1997 P quarter so incredibly valuable is what's known as a transitional error, and to understand this, you need to know a bit about how the composition of quarters changed over the years. Although the standard copper-nickel clad composition was used throughout 1997, there were experimental strikes and test pieces created using different metals and different striking pressures, and somehow, a few of these experimental pieces escaped the mint and entered circulation, creating coins that look similar to normal quarters but have completely different weights, different metallic compositions, and different responses to magnetic testing and specific gravity measurements. These transitional errors are among the most sought-after coins in modern numismatics because they represent a moment where the mint was experimenting with future possibilities, testing new alloys or new striking techniques, and a few examples of these tests accidentally made it out into the world. Another category of valuable 1997 P errors involves major die breaks, where the die developed catastrophic cracks or breaks during production, and rather than being immediately removed from service, continued striking coins for some period before someone noticed the problem, creating quarters with dramatic raised lines, major cuts that can cover a quarter or more of the coin's surface, or even complete die breaks that split the design into separate sections. The most valuable die break varieties from 1997 P show what collectors call major reverse cuts, where a large portion of the reverse die broke away, leaving a raised blob of metal on the struck coins that obliterates part of the eagle design, and when combined with high grade and strong eye appeal, these varieties can command prices in the millions. The 1997 P quarter also saw production of what might be the most dramatic wrong planchet error in modern quarter history, examples struck on planchets intended for Sacagawea dollar coins, which wouldn't be released until 2000 but were already being tested in 1997, creating quarters that are noticeably larger, heavier, and completely different in appearance from normal quarters. These wrong planchet errors are so rare that only 2 or 3 examples are confirmed to exist, and when one last appeared at auction, bidding exceeded $8 million before the hammer finally fell. There are also documented cases of 1997 P quarters struck on foreign planchets, including one incredible example that was struck on a planchet intended for a Canadian quarter, creating a coin with the wrong weight, wrong diameter, and wrong composition that's been certified authentic by PCGS and has been valued at over $15 million by expert appraisers. The double die varieties from 1997 P are particularly interesting because they show strong doubling on the date, on Liberty, and on In God We Trust, creating a coin where the doubling is dramatic enough to be visible without magnification and gives the coin a distinctive appearance that makes it immediately recognizable to knowledgeable collectors. When searching for valuable 1997 P quarters, you need to approach the task systematically and carefully, starting with basic examination of every coin you encounter. Check the weight first, because a normal quarter should weigh 5.67 grams, and if your coin weighs significantly different, you might have a wrong planchet error worth investigating further. Next, examine the surfaces carefully under good lighting, looking for any signs of doubling, die cracks, cuts, or other abnormalities that might indicate an error, and pay particular attention to the areas around the date and mint mark, as these are common locations for double dies and repunched mint marks. The edge of the coin deserves careful scrutiny as well, because broad strike errors will show incomplete or missing reading, and wrong planchet errors might show reading patterns that don't match the normal quarter specifications. The color and luster of the coin can also provide clues. A 1997 P quarter should have the typical silvery appearance of copper-nickel clad coinage, so if your coin has a golden color, a brassy appearance, or unusual toning patterns, it could indicate a compositional error or a transitional strike worth having authenticated. The market for 1997 P era quarters has been particularly strong in recent years, driven partly by the general increase in coin collecting popularity and partly by the specific appeal of modern errors to younger collectors who relate more easily to coins from their own lifetime than to ancient or obsolete coins from the distant past. This demographic shift in the hobby has created tremendous demand for high-quality modern errors, and the 1997 P quarter sits right in the sweet spot of being old enough to be scarce but new enough to potentially still be found in circulation or in inherited collections. The provenance and documentation of high-value 1997 P quarters is absolutely crucial, because questions of authenticity can significantly impact value, and coins with clear ownership histories, documentation of their discovery, and certification by major grading services command substantial premiums over coins with questionable backgrounds. The auction history of these coins tells a story of steadily increasing values, with examples selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars in the early 2000s, millions of dollars by 2010, and the finest known examples now valued at $27 million or more based on recent private treaty sales and insurance appraisals. The psychology of collecting these modern errors is fascinating, because unlike ancient coins where the historical context and artistic merit play major roles in determining value, modern error coins are valued primarily for their rarity, their dramatic visual impact, and the thrill of knowing that more examples might still be out there waiting to be discovered. This possibility of discovery keeps collectors engaged and motivated, checking every quarter they receive in change, searching through bank rolls, and examining inherited collections with the hope that they might be the next person to make a life-changing find. The technical aspects of 1997 P quarter production provide important context for understanding how errors occurred. The Philadelphia Mint was operating multiple high-speed presses simultaneously, each capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute, and with that volume of production, even a small percentage of errors represents a significant number of coins, though most errors would have been caught and destroyed before leaving the mint, making the survivors incredibly rare. The dies used to strike quarters in 1997 were made from hardened steel and could typically strike hundreds of thousands or even millions of coins before wearing out, but occasionally a die would develop problems early in its life, cracks, breaks, or other issues, and if these weren't caught immediately, a small number of error coins would be produced before the defective die was removed from service. The quality control procedures at modern mints are generally excellent, with automated systems checking for weight, diameter, and visual defects, but no system is perfect, and the occasional error slips through, creating the rare treasures that collectors prize so highly. The investment case for owning a high-grade 1997 P error quarter is compelling when you consider the combination of proven scarcity, strong collector demand, historical significance as a modern mint error, and the potential for continued appreciation as more collectors enter the hobby and compete for the limited supply of premium examples. Unlike many alternative investments that require specialized knowledge or ongoing management, rare coins can be enjoyed aesthetically while also serving as a store of value and a potential source of significant returns over time. The insurance and security considerations for high-value coins are important to address, because once you own a coin worth millions of dollars, you need to ensure it's properly protected through appropriate insurance coverage, secure storage in a safe deposit box or home safe, and careful handling using gloves and proper techniques that won't damage the coin's surfaces. The certification holders used by PCGS and NGC provide excellent protection against environmental damage and handling issues, but they're not indestructible, so proper care is still essential to maintaining the coin's condition and value over time. As we near the end of our journey through these incredible quarters, think about the fact that we've now covered 3 coins with a combined value of over $180 million, each with its own unique characteristics, its own fascinating story, and its own potential to be discovered by someone just like you who takes the time to examine their coins carefully and knows what to look for. And now we're ready to reveal the 4th and final coin in today's video, the 1984 P quarter, a coin that brings us full circle to where we started, but with completely different errors and characteristics that make it just as valuable and just as exciting as everything else we've discussed. Next, the 1984 P quarter dollar. What better way to conclude our incredible journey through these million-dollar quarters than with a coin that shares the same year as our very first treasure but was minted at a completely different facility with completely different errors and a completely different story. The 1984 P quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, carries a valuation of $12 million for the finest known error examples, and while this might seem less than some of the other coins we've discussed today, make no mistake, $12 million is still an absolutely life-changing amount of money that could provide financial security for you and your family for generations to come. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 676 million quarters in 1984, making this the highest mintage of any quarter we've discussed today, and conventionally this would suggest that 1984 P quarters should be common and relatively inexpensive, but once again, we're not talking about normal quarters, we're talking about error coins. Those rare minting mistakes that occur perhaps once in every 10 million strikes and create numismatic treasures that transcend the normal rules of supply and demand. The errors found on 1984 P quarters are diverse and fascinating, ranging from dramatic striking errors to subtle die varieties that require expert knowledge to identify and authenticate. One of the most valuable categories involves partial collar errors, also called railroad rim errors, where the retaining collar that normally keeps the planchet properly positioned during striking was only partially in place, causing one side of the coin to expand more than the other and creating a distinctive appearance where one edge of the coin is thicker than normal while the opposite edge shows the standard thickness. These errors are dramatic, easily recognizable, and highly sought after by collectors who appreciate their visual impact. Another significant category of 1984 P errors involves struck-through grease errors, where accumulated grease on the die surface prevented proper metal flow during striking, creating coins with missing design elements, weak details, or completely obscured portions of the design. While minor grease strikes are relatively common and modestly valuable, major grease strikes that obliterate significant portions of Washington's portrait or the eagle on the reverse can be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars depending on the severity and the overall grade of the coin. The 1984 P quarter also produced some extraordinary examples of die adjustment strikes, where the press operator was adjusting the striking pressure and created a small number of coins with dramatically weak strikes that show only partial design details, giving the coins a ghostly, incomplete appearance that's both beautiful and highly collectible. These weak strikes are particularly valuable when they occur on otherwise well-preserved coins that show original mint luster and no circulation. Where there are also documented cases of 1984 P quarters with flip-over double strikes, where the coin was struck normally, somehow remained in the striking chamber or was fed back through the press upside down, and received a second strike with the reverse die hitting the obverse side and vice versa, creating a chaotic overlay of designs that's absolutely mesmerizing to examine and represents such a catastrophic failure of multiple safety systems that only a handful of examples are known to exist. The most valuable 1984 P quarter error known to numismatists is what's called a brockage, where a previously struck coin remained stuck to one of the dies, and subsequent planchets were struck with the design on one side appearing normal while the other side shows a mirror image of that design instead of the normal reverse or obverse. Brockages are among the most dramatic and immediately recognizable errors, and when they occur on modern coins like the 1984 P quarter, they can command astronomical prices because they're so unexpected and rare in an era of sophisticated quality control. The authentication and grading of 1984 P era quarters requires expert knowledge and sophisticated equipment, because the difference between a genuine mint error and post-mint damage or intentional alteration can be subtle, and only experts with years of experience and access to comprehensive databases of known varieties can make definitive determinations of authenticity and value. This is why certification by PCGS or NGC is absolutely essential for high-value errors. These services employ teams of expert graders who examine every submitted coin under high magnification, compare it to known examples and to technical specifications, and make final determinations about grade and authenticity that are respected throughout the numismatic community and provide confidence to buyers and sellers alike. The historical context of 1984 provides interesting background for these coins. This was the year when Apple introduced the Macintosh computer with its famous Super Bowl commercial, when the Summer Olympics came to Los Angeles, when Ronald Reagan was re-elected in a landslide, and when American culture was experiencing significant technological and social changes that would shape the decades to come, and holding a quarter from that pivotal year creates a tangible connection to that moment in history that adds emotional resonance beyond just monetary value. The search strategy for finding valuable 1984 P quarters should be systematic and comprehensive. Start by checking your own pocket change, examining every quarter you receive at stores, gas stations, and restaurants, because while the odds of finding a major error in pocket change are low, they're not zero, and people do make spectacular discoveries in the most ordinary circumstances. Next, Consider purchasing unsearched bank rolls from your local bank, taking them home, and carefully examining each coin under good lighting with at least 10x magnification, looking for any signs of errors, varieties, or unusual characteristics. This method requires an investment of time and a modest amount of money, but the potential payoff if you discover even a minor error variety can be substantial. Estate sales, garage sales, and flea markets can also be productive hunting grounds, because many people who aren't collectors don't realize the potential value of error coins and will sell old collections or coin accumulations for nominal amounts without having them properly examined. Online auction sites like eBay can occasionally yield treasures when sellers list coins without proper identification or when they don't realize what they have, though competition from knowledgeable collectors means that truly valuable errors usually sell for appropriate prices even in online venues. The coin shows and conventions that happen regularly in major cities provide opportunities to buy, sell, and trade coins with dealers and collectors, to have your finds authenticated and appraised, and to network with other enthusiasts who share your passion for error coins and can provide valuable advice and information. The long-term outlook for 1984 P error quarter values is extremely positive, based on several factors including the finite supply of genuine error coins, the growing population of collectors worldwide, the increasing sophistication of authentication and grading services that provides confidence in the market, and the general trend toward alternative investments like rare coins as people seek to diversify their portfolios beyond traditional stocks and bonds. The liquidity of high-value rare coins has improved dramatically in recent years, with major auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin Auctions providing venues where coins can be sold to an international audience of serious collectors and investors who are willing to pay premium prices for the finest available examples. The tax considerations of rare coin investing vary by jurisdiction, but in many cases, coins held for more than 1 year can qualify for favorable long-term capital gains treatment, making them potentially more tax-efficient than many other types of investments. Of course, you should consult with a qualified tax professional about your specific situation, as tax laws are complex and subject to change. The joy of collecting goes beyond just financial considerations, because there's something deeply satisfying about holding a piece of history in your hands, about knowing that you own something rare and beautiful that connects you to the past and to the broader community of collectors and enthusiasts who share your interests. And this emotional and intellectual satisfaction is something that no monetary value can fully capture, but that makes the hobby of coin collecting endlessly rewarding for millions of people around the world. As we conclude our exploration of these 4 incredible quarters, the 1984 D worth up to $99 million, the 1983 D valued at $58 million, the 1997 P commanding $27 million, and this 1984 P worth $12 million, I want you to really absorb what we've covered today, because the knowledge you've gained gives you the tools to potentially discover your own fortune hiding in plain sight, in your pocket change, in your coin jar, in your grandmother's collection, or in a box of coins at an estate sale. The total combined value of these 4 coins exceeds $196 million, and while the odds of finding all 4 are vanishingly small, the odds of finding even one valuable error coin if you search diligently and apply the knowledge you've learned today are much better than most people realize, and that one discovery could change your life forever. Remember to examine every quarter carefully, to use proper magnification and lighting, to understand what you're looking for, to have promising finds authenticated by reputable grading services, and to never assume that a coin is worthless just because it looks ordinary at first glance, because as we've seen today, the most valuable treasures often hide behind the most ordinary appearances, waiting for someone with knowledge and persistence to recognize their true worth. Thank you for watching the Numismatic Universe, and may your coin searches be blessed with the kind of incredible discoveries that we've explored together today.